The silence after the storm was suffocating. Books lay scattered across the marble floor, pages torn and dancing in a faint, unnatural wind. The once grand library of Ravenhurst now stood hollow, walls trembling, chandeliers shattered, every echo whispering the name of something ancient. Evelyn opened her eyes slowly. The ache in her chest pulsed with the rhythm of a broken heartbeat. Her head rested against warmth, solid, familiar, human. Adrian. He held her in his arms amid the ruins, his coat torn, his hair falling into his eyes like strands of shadow. His touch was tender, his thumb tracing the line of her jaw as if afraid she might fade away. "Evelyn," he murmured, voice soft, yet not quite his. Beneath the tone she knew, there was a second whisper, low, hollow, inhuman. She froze. "Adrian." His gaze lifted to hers, gray eyes she had memorized now threaded with black, like ink bleeding into water. He smiled, but the expression faltered midway, twisting with something foreign. The air shifted. Candles flared on their own, casting wild shadows against the shelves. She could feel it, the pulse of the curse, alive again, breathing through the walls. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, fingers lingering, gentle as ever. Yet beneath the warmth of his skin was a coldness that seeped into her bones. "Don't look at me like that," he whispered. "I'm here." But even as he spoke, the second voice answered through him, soft, chilling, and laced with desire. "He freed me, and now you belong to me." Evelyn's breath caught. The library groaned, beams creaking as though the building itself recoiled at the words. She stumbled back, her heart pounding. "Who are you?" Adrian straightened, his shadow splitting in two on the wall behind him. One perfectly human, the other darker, serpentine, with eyes that glowed faintly red. The darker shadow moved when he didn't. "Adrian, fight it," she pleaded. "Please, don't let it take you." For a fleeting second, she saw him, truly him, fighting beneath the weight of the curse. His hand trembled, veins darkening as if ink crawled under his skin. "Evelyn, run," he rasped, his voice breaking between pain and fury. "I can't." A sudden gust of wind ripped through the library, blowing out the candles. Darkness swallowed them whole. And then came the whisper, right beside her ear. "He freed me, but you belong to me." The shadows surged forward like a tide. Evelyn reached for him, her fingers brushing the edge of his coat before he dissolved into mist, his form swallowed by darkness. Her scream echoed through the vast, broken chamber. Silence fell again, heavy and final. Only the fluttering pages remained, whispering her name in the cold. A single candle reignited, its weak flame trembling. On the cracked marble floor, where Adrian had stood, a single rose petal lay blackened and burned. Evelyn knelt, trembling, picking it up with shaking fingers. The air carried his scent, faint, fleeting, fading. "Adrian," she breathed. But the only answer was the echo of her name in 100 voices, his voice, and something else, layered, ancient, and unholy. The curse had not been broken. It had only changed its shape. And somewhere in the ruins, two shadows lingered, one bound to her heart, and one waiting to claim it. Adrian's eyes flashed black from the darkness beyond the shattered mirror. His whisper cut through the silence, deep and resonant. "You freed me, Evelyn, but you'll never free yourself." The night stretched endlessly, swallowing every whisper that dared echo through the ruins of Ravenhurst. Evelyn's trembling fingers brushed the edge of the cracked desk where she last saw him. Adrian's shadow still lingered there, faint as smoke. The candle beside her hissed, bleeding red wax down its side like a wound. His last words clung to her mind, "You'll never free yourself." But she refused to believe it. Somewhere in the darkness, beneath all the layers of sorrow and sin, he was still there. The man who once smiled softly when she stumbled over her books, who traced her fingers under the glow of candlelight, as though he could memorize her every heartbeat. Evelyn set her jaw, determination burning in her eyes. "I will bring you back," she whispered, voice trembling but certain, "even if I have to bleed for it." The old diary she carried had once belonged to the woman in the painting, Isolde, the scholar's forbidden muse. Its cover was cracked and brittle, bound with a rusted clasp shaped like intertwined roses. Evelyn had spent nights translating its cryptic Latin passages, but tonight, something new shimmered across its pages, lines written in a red hue that hadn't been there before. She traced the letters, and the page whispered back. A soft murmur, not in her mind, but all around her, curling through the air like mist. Beneath the heart of knowledge lies the heart of loss. Seek the scholars who sleep in chains of dust. The diary trembled in her hands. Her pulse quickened. Without hesitation, she followed the voice. The air grew colder as she descended the cracked staircase behind the west wing, down into the forbidden passages beneath the library. Dust rained from above. The walls were damp with age, etched with names long erased. Candles flickered to life one by one as she passed, lighting her path with an eerie red glow. At the corridor's end lay a door she had never seen before, a slab of stone carved with Latin runes and sealed with crimson wax. The wax was still warm. Her heart pounded. She pressed her palm against it. The wax hissed and parted under her touch. Beyond it lay a chamber carved from the bones of the earth itself, a tomb of forgotten scholars. Sarcophagi lined the circular room, each draped in rotting cloth, each engraved with a name she half recognized from the ancient university records. The air was thick, heavy with candle smoke, and something older, metallic. At the center stood an altar made of black marble. Upon it, an open book bound in what looked disturbingly like human skin. Her breath caught. The letters across its pages glowed faintly red, alive. The oath of binding. She approached slowly, the sound of her footsteps muffled by the dust of centuries. When she touched the edge of the altar, her vision blurred, memories flooding through her like a dream, not her own. She saw Adrian, but not as he was now. Younger, smiling. His laughter echoed in the candlelight. Then she saw herself, or rather, Isolde, in his arms, whispering words of devotion that burned brighter than any curse. Then the images shifted. Chains. Blood. A circle drawn in flame. The scholar's oath. The sacrifice that bound him to protect the library and damned him to eternal servitude. Her knees weakened. He made the pact, to protect me. The diary in her hand pulsed with warmth. Words bled across the page in a language she somehow understood. To break the binding, one must offer a heart freely given, bound by love and pain. Her breath caught. The meaning was cruelly clear. It wasn't about death, it was about surrender. To love completely, knowing it could destroy her. Her fingers brushed the old book's edge. A heart freely given, she murmured, remembering his hands, his voice, his eyes when he whispered her name like it was sacred. Every heartbeat echoed louder, pulsing through her chest, as though the library itself could feel her hesitation. She opened the ritual book, and the candlelight flickered wildly. The pages shimmered, the ink pulsing faintly, as if alive. And then, a droplet of blood fell from her fingertip onto the page. The parchment absorbed it. The book shuddered, the red ink spreading like veins beneath the surface. A whisper erupted around her, thousands of voices overlapping, pleading, weeping, laughing, whispering her name. The stone walls rippled. The air grew thick, tasting of copper and smoke. Faces emerged faintly in the stone, haunted, sorrowful, ancient scholars bound by their oaths. Evelyn, they breathed. She tried to pull away, but her blood continued to flow onto the book, drawn by an unseen force. The letters twisted, reshaping themselves into new words, written in her own blood. You cannot save what was born to be bound. Her vision swam, the red light burning brighter. The tomb shook. Adrian, she gasped, her voice echoing through the underground chamber. For a moment, she thought she heard him answer, faint, distant, pained. Evelyn, stop, before it takes you to. But it was too late. The book pulsed, sealing itself with her blood as its final whisper hissed like a serpent. The bond is forged. The book's cover slammed shut. Her candle extinguished. In the dark, a red sigil flared across the floor beneath her feet, forming a circle. And from its center, a voice rose, low, seductive, and terrible. Now your heart is mine. The sigil beneath Evelyn's feet pulsed once, then shattered like glass. She gasped, stumbling backward into a world of chaos and flickering light. The tomb was gone. The air tasted of dust and storm. She found herself once again in the library's grand hall, but it was no longer the sanctuary she remembered. Books hovered in midair, their pages fluttering open and closed like the wings of frightened birds. The chandeliers above dripped wax and shadows. Every heartbeat echoed like thunder against the marble floor. And then she saw him. Adrian stood near the shattered hearth, his silhouette half bathed in gold, half swallowed in black. The light trembled against him, as though the room itself could not decide if he belonged to the living or the damned. Adrian. Her voice broke softly, trembling on the edge of prayer. He turned. For one aching heartbeat, she saw him, the man she loved. The soft curve of his mouth, the warmth hidden in those storm-gray eyes. But then, like a cruel mirror, the light bent, and another presence moved behind his gaze. Evelyn, he said. Her name rolled from his tongue like velvet and poison, two voices laced together, his and another, older, darker one. She froze, her pulse roaring in her ears. It's still you. I know it's you. The other voice chuckled, a sound that did not belong to any human throat. He still clings to you, little scholar. Even now, when he should be ash and silence. Let him go, she whispered, her hands trembling. Take me instead. The shadow smiled through Adrian's face, and the candlelight trembled as if recoiling. You already offered yourself, didn't you? I tasted your blood in the tomb. She flinched. Her blood, the ritual. It had bound her to him, just as she feared. But even through the rising dread, her eyes searched for the man behind the darkness. Adrian, please. Fight it. You told me once that knowledge is light. Don't let the darkness steal you. He flinched as though struck. For a heartbeat, the air shimmered, the black mist recoiling from his skin. His voice cracked, raw and human again. Evelyn, run. You shouldn't be here. Tears blurred her vision. No, I won't leave you again. The shadows coiled tighter, crawling up his throat like living smoke. You can't save him. The entity hissed, its voice wrapping around her like a snake. He's mine, his soul, his body, his every breath. No, she stepped forward. He's not yours. Her words struck like a bell, echoing through the fractured silence. The books above them trembled, pages bursting open, sending a storm of paper through the air. Candles flickered violently, and for a brief moment, the library itself seemed to awaken, walls groaning, glass shattering, whispers echoing through the shelves. Evelyn reached for him through the tempest, her hair whipping wildly, her heart burning against her ribs. Adrian, remember me. Remember what it felt like when you held me, when you said I was your light. The entity sneered, but something within Adrian shuddered. He staggered backward, clutching his head. Stop. His voice cracked into two, his own, pleading, and the other, furious. You don't understand. She's the key. She is the seal. Her tears fell, glowing faintly in the strange half-light. They hit his skin and sizzled, soft golden sparks blooming where they touched. Adrian gasped, eyes flickering between shadow and light. Evelyn, come back to me, she whispered, her voice breaking, her trembling hands cupping his face. And for a heartbeat, the world stopped. The shadows recoiled as if burned. His features softened. The storm of pages slowed, suspended in the air like stars frozen in time. Adrian's breath trembled against hers. You shouldn't have done this, he murmured. It's not just a curse anymore. Her lips quivered. Then what is it? He leaned closer, his voice barely a breath. It's him. The library's heart. He's been waiting for centuries. My blood, your love, it's the final key. The space between them closed. The storm around them grew quiet, like the world holding its breath. When their lips met, the air fractured with light. It was not a kiss of peace, but of sorrow, of every ache that had ever lived between them. Heat and cold collided, light and shadow entangled until she couldn't tell where she ended and he began. His fingers tangled in her hair, his breath trembling against her skin, and every heartbeat felt like it might tear the world apart. In that single moment, she felt him again, his laughter, his warmth, his love beneath the curse. He drew back slowly, eyes glistening. Evelyn, there's still a way. Her pulse stilled. Tell me. The third seal, he whispered, voice shaking. It lies within the heart of the library, beyond the mirror room. But his gaze darkened. Breaking it could erase us both. She froze, his words cutting through her like frost. Erased us. He nodded faintly. The curse binds itself to emotion. If we break it, everything it fed upon, our pain, our love, might vanish with it. Her heart clenched. Then we'll vanish together. For a moment, he smiled. The soft, human smile she thought she'd lost forever. You'd trade forever for me? She touched his cheek, tears gleaming. I already did. The library seemed to sigh, a gust of cold air sweeping through the hall. Candles went out one by one. Shadows rippled along the walls, crawling like serpents. Then his body tensed. His smile faltered. His breath hitched as the darkness surged back through his veins. Adrian. The entity's voice hissed from deep within his throat, venomous and furious. Then let us both burn together. He seized her wrist, his grip iron and trembling, eyes flickering black. The world around them roared, the floating pages bursting into flame, the floor trembling, and the very air between them twisting with ancient rage. And in that single breath before the fire consumed everything, Evelyn whispered through her tears, then let it burn. The shadows swallowed them both in a violent wave of crimson light, and the sound of her name faded into silence, leaving only the echo of a heartbeat that refused to die. The library trembled as Evelyn ran. The corridors stretched endlessly, folding in on themselves like a living maze. Shelves twisted, groaning as if the walls themselves were weeping. Every step she took, the whisper of her name followed. Evelyn. Evelyn, come closer. Her breath caught when she reached the end of a hall that hadn't existed before, a set of black marble doors etched with gold veins, pulsing faintly, like the beat of a living heart. She felt it before she saw it, warmth beneath her skin, an invisible pull tugging at her soul. Adrian's presence. The doors opened for her. The chamber beyond took her breath away. It was vast, larger than any hall she had ever seen, its ceiling lost in the dark above. Floating candles burned in midair, their flames trembling as though aware of her arrival. At the center of the room, suspended by nothing, hung a massive crystal shaped like a human heart. It pulsed with a soft red glow, rhythmic and alive. Each pulse sent ripples of magic across the walls, illuminating runes that crawled like veins up the marble pillars. The air shimmered with ancient sorrow. She could feel it, the weight of countless souls, every love, every heartbreak, trapped and echoing through time. Then she saw him. Adrian stood beneath the crystal, his head bowed, his body tense as though fighting an unseen storm. Shadows rippled across his form, and the air around him bled light and darkness in equal measure. Adrian. Her voice cracked as it broke through the silence. He turned. For a heartbeat, she saw him, the man she knew. His eyes, gray and human, softened. But almost instantly, a flicker of black spread across his gaze, and his smile twisted into something cruel, something wrong. You shouldn't have come here, two voices said through one mouth, his and the entity's. Evelyn stepped closer, trembling. You're losing control. Please, let me help you. The thing inside him laughed softly, a low sound that slithered through the air. He doesn't want help. He wants freedom, and I can give him that. Adrian's body tensed, his jaw clenching. No, don't. The shadow seized control again. Don't fight me, host. She's already part of us. She just doesn't know it yet. The heart-shaped crystal flared, flooding the room with light. Images flickered through the glow, ghostly memories of the library through time. Lovers embracing in the dark, scholars burning books to keep their secrets, blood staining parchment pages. And in all of it, Evelyn saw herself. In different forms. Different lives. Always the same eyes. Always the same man. Her breath shuddered. What is this? The entity smiled through Adrian's face. The truth. You were never separate. You were born from this place, bound to him by the first seal. You're both fragments of its soul. She shook her head, stepping back, tears filling her eyes. No, I'm real. He's real. Adrian's voice broke through the dark, weak but desperate. Evelyn, listen to me. Don't believe him. Why not? The shadow hissed. You've hidden the truth from her long enough. Tell her what you did, Adrian Vale. Tell her how the curse began. He staggered forward, clutching his chest as though the words themselves burned. "I was one of them," he rasped. "One of the scholars who bound it. We thought we were protecting knowledge, but we trapped something alive. Something divine. It demanded a soul to seal it, and I offered mine." Evelyn's tears fell freely now. "And mine." His eyes softened, haunted, filled with centuries of regret. "You came after. Every lifetime, the library called to you, because it remembered what I lost. You were never supposed to find me again." The shadow smiled, cruel and knowing. Yet she always does. The candles flickered violently. The crystal pulsed faster, its light turning crimson. Cracks spread across its surface like veins of fire. Evelyn clutched her heart, feeling it beat in rhythm with the crystal. She could sense its pull, the sorrow, the temptation whispering to her in 1,000 forgotten voices. Join him, stay forever, in the pain. The voice in her head grew louder, seductive, promising release. "You could live here," it murmured, "in eternal twilight. Love without loss, desire without end." She wanted to believe it. The longing in her chest ached so deeply she could hardly breathe. But then she looked at Adrian, his trembling hands, the way his eyes begged her to stay strong even as darkness crept through his veins. "No," she whispered. "Love without loss isn't love. It's a cage." The entity roared through him, its fury shaking the chamber. "Then be caged together." A wave of force hurled her backward. She struck the ground hard, her palms scraping against cold stone. Adrian fell to his knees, screaming, his voice fracturing between two souls. The crystal's glow pulsed wildly now, cracks spreading across its surface until it looked ready to shatter. Evelyn crawled toward him through the storm of magic, every breath searing her lungs. "Adrian, look at me," she cried. "You told me once that love was stronger than knowledge. Prove it. Fight him." He raised his gaze, tears streaking his face. "I'm trying." Her heart broke. She saw him slipping, his humanity drowning beneath the shadow's hunger. And she knew then what she had to do. Her trembling hand brushed against the shards of a broken glass lantern scattered across the floor. One piece glinted with the same red light as the crystal. She picked it up, slicing her palm open without hesitation. Blood welled instantly, dark, vivid, real. She rose and pressed her shaking hand against his chest, right above his heart. "If you must be bound," she whispered, voice trembling with both love and defiance, "then bind me with you." The blood spread between them, glowing. The entity screamed, a sound like breaking glass and thunder, its form flickering violently inside Adrian. The crystal above them began to shatter, light bursting outward in blinding waves. Adrian gasped, his hand closing around hers, his human voice returning for a single, aching heartbeat. "Evelyn, what have you done?" Her eyes shone through tears and light. "What you would have done for me." The crystal exploded. A soundless flash consumed the chamber, light swallowing shadow, love colliding with darkness. And when it faded, only silence remained, except for the faint, steady rhythm of two hearts beating as one. The light dimmed. The crystal was gone. Adrian and Evelyn stood motionless at the center of the ruin, her hand still on his chest, until his eyes opened slowly. One gold, one black, and he whispered, voice no longer his own, "Now we are one." The library was dying. Every wall shuddered, shelves cracking open as thousands of pages spiraled into the air like frantic birds. Candles burst one by one, their flames drawn into a storm of light and shadow that twisted above the heart of the room. In the center stood Evelyn and Adrian, hands clasped, blood and magic binding their palms together. Their eyes met, hers wide with fear, his burning with love and pain. Between them, the runes carved into the marble floor flared to life, drawing patterns of ancient symbols that pulsed like veins. "It's beginning," Adrian whispered, his voice echoing like two tones at once. "One human, one not. The ritual, it's taking us both." Evelyn's tears glistened in the light. "Then let it. If this is what it takes to end it, I'll pay the price with you." The shadows screamed, a sound that wasn't merely heard but felt, vibrating through bone and soul. The air thickened, suffocating, as the curse began to fight back. Its voice, ancient, furious, filled every corner of the crumbling library. "You cannot destroy what you are," it roared. "You were born from me." The ground split. Light and darkness clashed, colliding around them in spirals of color that painted the collapsing walls. Evelyn held tighter to Adrian, her voice trembling yet strong. "No," she cried. "We were born from love, not from you." Adrian gasped, his body convulsing as the curse tried to tear free of him. His shadow flickered violently, splitting in two, one dark, writhing form pulling away from his body. Evelyn could see it now, the shape of the entity, faceless, vast, stitched from smoke and sorrow. It lunged for her. Adrian moved without thought. He threw himself between them, the shadow striking him squarely in the chest. He fell back with a gasp, but even as pain tore through him, he smiled. A small, broken smile filled with all the tenderness of lifetimes. "I remember everything," he whispered. "Every time I found you. Every time I lost you." Light began to seep from his wounds, not blood, but pure, golden energy, spilling into her hands. Evelyn's tears fell onto it, and the magic pulsed brighter. Their joined palms glowed, runes etching themselves up their arms like living vines. The curse screamed again, writhing in agony. "Stop! You cannot bind me with love." But it was already too late. Around them, visions began to shimmer, flickers of their lives across centuries. Evelyn saw herself in candlelit halls, in sunlit gardens, in battlefields and ballrooms, always reaching for him, always losing him. Adrian as a scholar, a soldier, a poet, a sinner, always searching for her face in every lifetime. Her sob escaped her lips like a prayer. "We never broke the curse, we kept living it." Adrian's trembling hand rose, cupping her face, his eyes now clear, free for the first time in centuries. "Our love was never the curse," he smiled faintly, his voice fading beneath the roar of the collapsing room. "It was the key." The runes flared white-hot. Light exploded outward from their joined hands, flooding the entire library. Shelves dissolved into dust. The ceiling cracked open to reveal not the night sky, but a sea of stars swirling in endless darkness. Books burst apart midair, their words scattering like fireflies. Evelyn screamed his name as the force of the magic lifted them both from the ground. She could feel his warmth, his heartbeat, and then silence. The world turned weightless. She was falling through fragments of memory, their laughter, their kisses, the feel of his hands trembling against hers. For a moment, it was peace. Pure, golden peace. Then everything went dark. When she opened her eyes, she was standing alone. The library was still. No fire, no ruin. Only quiet, the kind of quiet that felt sacred. Dust floated gently in the air, and the faint scent of old parchment lingered. The heart-shaped crystal was gone. The runes had vanished. And so had Adrian. Her knees gave way. She pressed her palm to the cold floor where his blood and hers had once mixed, but all that remained was a faint shimmer of light, fading like a dying breath. "Adrian," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Don't leave me again." But only the echo of turning pages answered. She closed her eyes. Somewhere deep in her chest, she felt a soft rhythm, one that wasn't her own. Two heartbeats, faintly overlapping. His voice brushed against her mind like the whisper of a dream. Always. And then nothing. Years later, dust drifted through shafts of morning light. The Ravenhurst Library stood rebuilt, silent, vast, beautiful once more. The old legends had faded into rumor, and most believed the stories of curses and lovers' ghosts were only myths told to frighten students. But the air still carried something. A pulse, a whisper too soft to notice unless one listened closely. A new student walked through the doors one quiet afternoon. Her eyes were bright with curiosity, her hands brushing along the spines of books as if they could speak. She paused at a lonely corner shelf, where one book stood out from the rest, bound in black leather, its title glimmering faintly in gold. The Eternal Oath. She smiled faintly and pulled it free. The cover was warm to the touch. When she opened it, the pages turned themselves, stopping on the final line, written in dark, flowing ink that shimmered like wet light. And still, they wait between the pages. The candles flickered. The air grew colder. Two faint shadows appeared behind her, a man and a woman, standing close, hands almost touching. Their outlines shimmered like breath upon glass, their presence soft as memory. The girl frowned, turning slowly, but there was no one there. Only the faint whisper of a man's voice lingering in the air, low, aching, eternal, until the next page is written. The camera lingers on the open book, its ink still glistening, a faint heartbeat pulsing beneath the words. The pages flutter once, as if turned by unseen hands. Then silence, and the screen fades to black.